You think addiction is a modern problem. Pills, drugs, social media, something that came with the modern world. But here's the truth. The very first thing humans ever got addicted to was alcohol. And it didn't start a few hundred years ago. It didn't start a few thousand years ago. It started 10 million years ago, before humans even existed. And the scary part? That addiction is still running inside your brain right now. Let me show you exactly how. 10 million years ago, your ancestors weren't inhuman. They were small, furry primates living in African forests, and one day one of them picked up a piece of fruit off the ground. Fruit that had been sitting in the sun too long, fruit that had split open and started rotting, fruit that had already turned into something else entirely. They ate it, and their brain exploded with pleasure. Not because the fruit was sweet, because it had fermented. Because yeast had gotten inside it and converted the sugar into alcohol. A tiny amount, but enough. The brain fired dopamine, the chemical that makes you feel good, and sent one clear message: find this again. Whatever that was, find more of it. And they did, every single day. Now here's the part that will genuinely shock you. Scientists studied 70 million years of primate evolution, and they found something nobody expected. 10 million years ago, right around the time our ancestors started eating that fermented fruit, a single genetic mutation happened. One tiny change in one gene, and that change made them 40 times better at processing alcohol. 40 times. Evolution didn't just allow this, evolution invested in it. Evolution looked at the attraction to alcohol and said, yes, more of that. Build that in deeper, make sure they can handle it. That mutation is still in your DNA today. You were born with it. Every human on Earth was born with it. The craving for alcohol isn't a personal weakness. It was written into human biology 10 million years before you were born. So, when did humans go from accidentally eating fermented fruit to actually making alcohol on purpose? Earlier than you think, way earlier. 13,000 years ago, archaeologists found a cave near Haifa in Israel. Inside that cave, carved directly into the rock, were stone mortars, and inside those mortars were traces of grain. Grain that had been soaked, left to sit, and deliberately fermented into beer. These people had no farms, no villages, no pottery. They were still hunting animals for food and collecting wild grain by hand. They hadn't figured out how to grow crops yet, but they had already figured out how to brew. Read that again. Humans invented alcohol before they invented farming. The craving was so powerful, so deep, so ancient, that people engineered a solution for it before they engineered a solution for hunger, and it only grew from there. 5,000 years ago, the Sumerians had already written down over 20 different beer recipes on clay tablets. Not one recipe, 20. They were experimenting, refining, improving. They were also already writing laws about drinking too much, which means people were already drinking too much, which means the problem is at least 5,000 years old. Even the oldest story ever written, the Epic of Gilgamesh, has alcohol in it. In that story, a wild man becomes a real human being the moment he sits down and drinks 7 cups of beer. Not when he builds a shelter, not when he learns to speak, when he drinks. In ancient times, alcohol wasn't seen as a weakness, it was seen as what made you human. But here's where the story gets dark. Every civilization that embraced alcohol also had records of people who couldn't stop. Egypt, Rome, Mesopotamia, ancient China, every single one. Every culture that ever touched alcohol eventually had to confront the same problem. Some people drank, and some people couldn't stop drinking, and nobody could fully explain why. Now we can. When alcohol enters your brain, it releases dopamine, the same chemical that fires when you eat food when you're starving. The brain doesn't know the difference between alcohol and survival. It just feels the dopamine and says, "This is important, do this again, don't stop." And the more you drink, the worse it gets. Because the brain is smart, it notices the dopamine flood and starts cutting back its own receptors to balance things out. So now you need more alcohol just to feel okay, not good, just okay, not to get high, just to feel normal. That's not weakness, that's the brain adapting. doing exactly what it was built to do. Stanford researcher Anna Lemke spent years studying this. Her conclusion was three words: old brain, new world. The wiring was built for a time when fermented fruit was rare and hard to find, when you had to fight just to get it. That world no longer exists, but the wiring is still running. So here's the full picture. 10 million years ago, a genetic mutation hardwired your ancestors to want alcohol. 13,000 years ago, humans were brewing it before they could grow food. 5,000 years ago, entire civilizations were built around it. And in every single era since, without one exception, people have been drawing the same line between drinking and not being able to stop. The first addiction in human history wasn't invented in a lab. It wasn't manufactured by a corporation. It was written into your DNA before your species had a name for itself. Every time you feel that pull toward a drink, that warmth, that ease, that quiet settling of everything restless inside you, that feeling is 10 million years old. You didn't develop the craving, you were born with it.